Time has changed. Our standards are higher now for everything. We want better entertainment products and better dating experiences. We are aware of how much the media could affect our thought pattern on an unconscious level. So a change in reality has to be seen in fictional world. A change in our life has to be reflected in the media that we consume. Hi girlies, welcome back to Debrief Sesh, where we talk about dating, pop culture, and dating in pop culture. So today's hot topic is Boys Over Flowers, a Korea boo's all-time favorite, a classic in the K-drama world, if you will. I remember counting down the days to catch the new episode of this drama when I was in elementary school. So yeah, you can say I was a big fan. My problem with Boys Over Flowers as an adult woman is that it has aged so very poorly. The whole series centers on couples with a douchebag boyfriend and a fixer-upper girlfriend. The guy becomes a better version of himself at the expense of his female love interest, and later gets the credits for having changed. But bitching on terrible fictional men is not the only thing we do on this channel. I want to know why girls and women all over the world, including me, actually enjoyed watching this series. It is a classic Korea boo guilty pleasure. The guilt is easy to explain, considering the wattpad storytelling tropes, awkward 2000 acting, and a complete detachment to reality. But what about the pleasure in guilty pleasure? Why do we enjoy it so much despite how bad it is? Or do we enjoy it exactly because it is bad? I want to explore this idea that the one reason why Boys Over Flowers is so successful is because it reflects the exact opposite of reality, therefore making it the perfect fantasy land for women who suffer from violence in real life. And don't you hit me with the but not that many women experience violence in their lives. Listen, if you're a woman or queer, there is a high chance that you have. You don't need to get beaten up on the street to be considered a victim of violence, you know? For your reference, these things are also considered violence. Verbal and emotional abuse, cyberbullying, threats of all kinds, stalking, financial abuse, and the list goes on. Yeah, I know that's a lot to unpack. Get ready to dabble into toxic wattpad tropes, realistic dating reflections, and criticism against the patriarchy, all within one session. In simple terms, I'm going to rant. So without further ado, let's dive right into our debrief sesh. Number 1. I'm not like other girls. At the start of the series, Geum was put in this fancy, one-of-a-kind high school where students come from the wealthiest families in the country. Unlike her schoolmates who have developed an unhealthy obsession and compliance with Junpyo and his F4 gang, Jandy is filled with disdain for the violence inflicted by these boys. This conveniently makes her the most different girl of them all. She is for real, not like other girls.
손톱 딸 태어나서 처음 보는 거다? 너무 신기한 거 있지?
Throughout the first few episodes, the lazy writing offers us multiple occasions where Jandy proved to be the most peculiar girl of them all. She brings her own smelly lunch instead of dining at the fancy restaurant with fancy food and fancy decorations. She speaks up against Junpyo to protect her friend, Minji, who accidentally spilled ice cream on the rich heiress' shoe. When Minji gave in to her own jealousy and set Jandy up for a leak of sensitive photos, Jandy forgives her. See, even the one friend whom we thought was nice to our heroine was just like all the girls, obsessed with looks and boys. This trope is very common in popular culture. Wherever you're from and however old you are, there's a high chance that you've come across it. You've seen it in K-dramas, on Disney, Nickelodeon, or your grandma's favorite telenovela. There are too many examples, so I'm just going to mention one of them, which I believe is the literal epitome of the I'm not like other girls trope. This is a scene from Mean Girls 2. If you haven't heard of it, it's a sequel of the classic Mean Girls movie, and it flopped miserably. For a good reason, that is.
Brutal. You know, this girl would have laughed, texted back, or posted a status update.
Do I look like most girls?
But here's the thing, all of the qualities that make Jamdi different from other girls at her school are supposed to be positive. She has a moral compass, she is not into superficial things, and she's very straightforward and protective of her friends. They're all good qualities. So what's the problem? We have to remember that to successfully create the I'm not like other girls dynamic, we need an unrealistically hostile environment where basic human decency is considered the outlier. And to do that, we have to vilify someone, right? That group of people, unfortunately, is almost always girly girls. Even in BOF's case, where the F4 gang appeared as the bullies in the beginning of the series, they are still the protagonists of the show. They have their redemptions later, and viewers are still able to sympathize, if not identify with them. I need to be very clear at this point that I don't have a problem with people who relate to Jandi. Hell, I was one of them. It is completely valid to feel like you're not like most girls and find comfort in fictional characters who seem to be fighting the same battle you are. In fact, I believe that this is exactly why the not like other girls trope got popular in the first place, because it is such a universal experience, especially for teenagers. Going through puberty is hard, and it's nice to see yourself in a heroine with a tough life and a happy ending. But however tough your life is, it is not valid to villainize other girls just because you are going through something that they're not. There might be an unconscious bias here because from a young age, we have been fed with the stereotypical image of a girly, pink-loving, gossip-addicted female villain. I mean, let's be real. Have you ever wondered why the female villains in this not like other girls stories are always hyper-feminine? I'm thinking of the Mean Girls franchise, the Kissing Booth franchise, Heathers, Taylor Swift's You Belong With Me, and the list again goes on. It's not just one-dimensional and boring to build the villain this way, it's also harmful because it implies that conventional feminine traits are evil. It's like a witch hunt done more subtly because you can't randomly persecute women on the street anymore. This trope alienates individuals who wish to express themselves in a conventionally feminine way, and that's a lot of girls and women. Moreover, it promotes the idea that being not like other girls is rewarding because it will earn you male validation. It imposes the narrative that to be worth something, we need to separate ourselves from the rest of womankind. So, it's high time that we retire these not like other girls narratives. But even when we know there's nothing wrong with being like other girls, sometimes we still feel the need to be different, to be special, to be picked. Like how Jandi was so different from other girls at her school and got picked by the two most popular boys. Let's be real, Jandi was living out the fantasy that a lot of us girls had and still do. So now the question is, even if we are aware of how potentially harmful this trope is, what draws us to it? Still, my guess is that it is the internalized misogyny within us screaming to get out. We were born under a patriarchy, raised with patriarchal values, and mature with patriarchal social hierarchy. No matter how aware we are, something in the back of our minds still craves for the comfort of complying to patriarchal values. When something is internalized, it's going to take years, if not generations, to unlearn. The fight against the patriarchy is going to be a long battle, and we're probably not going to win it in our lifetime. We went a long way though, thanks to feminism. So for the time being, a lot of us girls find comfort in the I'm not like other girls trope, ironically. In a perfect world, we will get to watch nuanced, complex, and interesting female characters who don't treat other women as their inferiors just because of some stereotypical traits. But I'm hopeful because the entertainment industry is actually getting much better at creating female characters. Take the Pyramid Game for an example. If you want to watch a series that does not mold their female characters into predictable tropes, go give it a try. Number 2, I Can Change Him. Junpyo and his F4 gang got away with so many problems. I mean, they started out as high school bullies whose behaviors almost led another student, Minha, to suicide. When Jandi was new to the school, they deliberately and violently humiliated her. When Junpyo starts to take interest in Jandi, he consistently forces her to go on dates and makeovers without her consent. In another incident, Jandi had to give up on her lifelong hobby, swimming, because she got hit by a chair while trying to protect Junpyo. He later got cold to her for his training to lead the Shinhwa group and left the freaking city. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that he is a walking red flag. Junpyo was the most problematic guy, but he was definitely not the only one. Let me remind you of the rest of the F4 gang who were willing bystanders to Junpyo's violence. They're no better people when it comes to other aspects of their personal lives. Lee-jung, for example, disrespectfully made use of Ga-eul to mock his cheating father.
이 아가씨 아버지 취향이신 것 같은데 빌려드릴까요?
이정성
어때 가을씨? 우리 아버지 꽤 괜찮지?
And he later changed for the better, sure, but at the expense of his future partner's emotional labor. And as audiences, we're supposed to be rooting for all of these characters. We're supposed to find them sweet, and we actually did. But why? Here's my theory. We've all been there, getting involved with a man whom we're not happy with, but deeply in love with. We spend our time, energy, and money on him with the hope that someday he's going to change and become the exact man that we need to be happy. We want to think that whatever horrible acts he's committing, there's an explanation for it. Maybe he didn't see the message. Maybe he had an accident. Maybe he's just traumatized by his family. Maybe he just hasn't been loved the way I love him yet. Maybe his grandma just died. We're so good at making up excuses for the men we love. Don't lie to me. Have you ever felt the urge to defend him in front of your girlfriends, knowing they are going to call him out on his bullshit? Anyway, the bottom line is, we want to believe that we can change him, that they can get better for us. But that doesn't usually happen in real life. More often than not, we are left disappointed, tired, depressed, or miserable getting involved with red flag guys. Such experience is shared by so many women to the point that we have a name for it on social media: the feminine urge. But it is exactly because they're unrealistic that stories like Boys Over Flowers take off. They reflect the struggle that a lot of us girls and women experience in real life and provide us with the happy ending that we so desperately hope for. Obviously, that only happens in fantasy land, but we want to see it happening nevertheless. And so, we're happily watching these fictional women getting disrespected, harassed, assaulted for the sake of their future partner's growth. We then internalize this narrative and allow the same thing to happen to us in real life, all while holding out for the happy ending we saw on television. In reality, it's never worth it. Even in very rare cases that it is worth it to change someone that is so harmful to you, there needs to be a profound repent on the guy's part. We never saw that in BOF. It felt like the women's sacrifices are the apparent cause for dating a changed man. So, what are we hoping to see in replacement of this problematic trope? Don't worry, there are good examples out there. If you're looking for K-dramas with seemingly red flag men who change for the better without inflicting unnecessary or unrecognized pain on their female partners, here is my golden recommendation. That's Okay, That's Love. Another really good example is Pride and Prejudice. It is completely possible to write dramatic stories without portraying women as the default and sole sacrificial victim for romance. Number 3. I'm a damsel in distress. Jandy was a target for violence as soon as she moved to the Xinhua school, which is understandable considering how she was financially, socially, and emotionally at a disadvantage compared to the other students. She's also quite a clumsy person, and sometimes she lacks the awareness to assess if a situation is potentially threatening. She is, you guess it, dorky, like countless other female leads we've seen growing up.
학습 능력에 딱 오랑우탄 수준이야.
Writing a dorky character is not inherently bad, but it is bad to consistently portray female characters as incapable of looking after themselves. In Jandy's case, her incapability to protect herself is skillfully masked with a short temper and strong moral compass. We watch scenes of her shouting at the powerful, almighty Junpyo, and we assume that this feisty girl knows how to take care of herself. She doesn't though. Every time she says no to Junpyo, he turns it around and makes it an opportunity to either hurt her or challenge her. He gives himself the right to mess with her because of how much more power he had. That is usually not a healthy dynamic in real life. Nevertheless, the viewers were supposed to find this push and pull dynamic romantic, and we did. The enemies to lovers trope never seems to get old, and Jandy and Junpyo has to be the classic case study for any other who wants to nail this trope. But here's the deal. There's a distinct difference between discovering parts of someone that you've never imagined before and completely forgetting about harmful, toxic, and controlling behavior that have never been properly addressed, by the way, because he's just sweet sometimes. Female leads like Jandy change their minds about someone despite having gone through hell because of them. Remember that one incident when there was a misunderstanding between them and Junpyo deliberately let his schoolmates assault her?
난 이제부터 네가 누군지 몰라.
And when he shows up to rescue her from the violence committed in his name, by the way, he is treated as some sort of a romantic hero. He was, in fact, far from one. It is the idea that female leads are fragile and in need of protection, and the more they resist such protection, the harder their love interests have to find and change their minds. It does not always work that way in real life. Sometimes we are fine on our own and just want to be left alone, period. So, why are we suckers for this trope where a toxic guy is stubborn enough to convince a feisty girl into his loving, controlling arms? My guess is that, again, the exact opposite happens in real life. Girls and women everywhere are expected to be independent and cool and chill and low maintenance, basically perfectly capable without being able to rely on their man.
Cool girl is hot. Cool girl is gay. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man.
The toxic feminists of the previous decade would try to convince us that to be more valuable, we have to be more like the conventional man, more aggressive, active, dictative, independent, powerful. So, of course, we should strive to be superwomen who don't need men's help at all. We should have successful careers all while nailing all the housework. We should have it all. And that kind of mindset results in weaponized incompetence in men. If you don't know what it means, it's a popular culture term that refers to men who deliberately mess up the most simple tasks, usually in doing housework, so that their female partners would have no choice but to shoulder that responsibility. This is such a universal experience for women, especially working moms, that again, we have an internet term for it: married single women. It's not just the relentless labor, but also the shame in asking for help, because we feel like we're supposed to be able to do it all. Our grandmas did it, our mothers did it. So my theory is, somewhere deep down in our hearts, we crave a romantic dynamic where we can aggressively refuse help. But the guy is so relentless that he could coerce us into relying on him anyway. In a perfect world, we can find a healthy balance between these two toxic extremes, where the man of our dreams offers help without undermining our agency, where we can be independent, capable, and powerful women while being able to ask for help whenever we want to, where we can be intentional in romance as much as we are in every other aspect of our lives. One good example that I'd like to bring up is a K-drama where the male lead helps his partner in literally everything she wants to do with her life, without ever once undermining her agency or disrespecting her intelligence, even when there's a conflict between them. Go give Marry My Husband a try to really understand what I'm trying to say. We're nearing the end of the debrief sesh, so this is a good point to respond to those of you who accuse content creators like me of being too quote-unquote easily offended. I've read too many comments along the lines of, they get upset over anything these days, movies are just movies, they aren't real. And then there are always straight guys in the comments like, women ask for so much these days. Here's the deal. Time has changed. Our standards are higher now for everything. We want better entertainment product and better dating experiences. We are aware of of how much the media could affect our thought pattern on an unconscious level. So, a change in reality has to be seen in fictional worlds. A change in our life has to be reflected in the media that we consume. My final words for the girlies who are so aware of how ridiculous these wattpad tropes are, but have not been able to let them go, it's okay. Seriously, it's fine if you find Boys Over Flowers problematic and enjoyable at the same time. Women are waking up to how disadvantaged we are, and it takes time for us to unlearn all the things that the patriarchy told us. We'll take it by the day and change the world one debrief sesh at a time. Anyway, that's all the tea. Thanks so much for tuning in to Debrief Sesh. If you enjoy my content, hit the like and subscribe button. It means a lot to a small channel like mine. I'm so excited to read your unfiltered comments on all things around dating, pop culture, and dating in pop culture. Leave me a message if you have a Debrief Sesh request. See you next time!